All right, good afternoon. We have released body camera video of a tasing incident that occurred last week on Thursday. It had garnered some media attention. There was some video that was released. We got several media requests pretty much at the time that the incident, that the arrest occurred. So as our continuing effort to be as transparent as possible, we wanted to release that video, which we did release that video. I think it showed a successful conclusion of an incident where the United States Marshal Service was looking to take an individual into custody for an indictment warrant alleging rape in the first degree of forcible rape out of Niagara County. That individual, when marshals approached, fled out of a window and wound up going on various rooftops. At some point, while he was up on a rooftop, he jumped off of a garage and ran down the end of a driveway and discarded a bag that he had with him on that rooftop. What was revealed from that bag was a 9mm Beretta handgun. The magazine was in the individual's pocket and had 3 rounds in that magazine. So this individual is also the subject of an investigation by the Buffalo Police Department for another violent crime that detectives followed up on that day. I'm not going to elaborate on what that incident was, but we are continuing to follow up on that, and we hope to have a conclusion to that in the very near future, and we'll release information on that. But this is an individual that is facing some very serious violent charges in Niagara County. As I said, it was a rape in the first degree, and we are looking at some very serious charges as well in our jurisdiction when the conclusion comes to an end. He was also charged with possession of a handgun. He obviously was not allowed to be in possession of that loaded handgun. So with that, I'll take some questions.
Why wasn't he allowed to be in possession of the gun? He had a prior felony conviction.
He does not have a pistol permit.
Okay. So it was legally registered?
I'm sorry?
It was not his legally registered?
It is not a legally registered handgun. Therefore, he was illegally in possession of a handgun. Yes?
How many officers are trained to use tasers and how many are being trained to use?
So I'm working on those numbers as we speak. I'll have them tomorrow, but the last time I checked, we're probably a little bit over 60% of eligible officers to carry a taser. So within our department, we're looking at a little over 450 personnel by nature of their position in the department that will be carrying a taser. Detectives, command staff, there's various assignments in the department that they will not be carrying a taser. So it's primarily the patrol force. And out of that, we're well into the 200, the higher 200 levels. I'll have the exact number tomorrow that are getting trained. It's a 10-hour training. It's time, it's time consuming. We're also expending overtime hours in our academy at nighttime to get our officers trained at night. So we're aggressively pushing out that training, and we have fully deployed all the tasers in our possession out to all the districts, except for the ones that we're holding back for training purposes.
Is it clear to you that they follow all the proper protocols for the use of a taser?
By what I saw in the video, and I'll say this early, yes. Yes.
This is early on in your use of tasers. You've just deployed them. You said 60% of the force trained. How would you kind of evaluate as you look at this video how this all unfolded?
I think the taser was used as designed. It was used to take an individual in custody who was fighting with police officers that was armed. Had that handgun been displayed, had been pointed towards officers, that obviously would have changed the game. The gun was in a bag. Officers did not know that at the time. But in that circumstance, the taser did what it was designed to do in that very scenario. Nobody was injured other than the defendant by his own means, by jumping off of the garage, which caused an injury to his leg. But no officers were injured. The defendant was not injured as a result of taking him into custody. And I think that's a successful outcome.
Did you previously place on leave for discharging taser the same as they would?
No. No, it's not considered a critical incident.
You previously discussed the importance of tasers and why your department needs them. If a taser wasn't available in this situation, what would have been the alternative outcome?
That would have continued on as an escalating physical encounter, which is what we do our best to avoid. But the individual is going to dictate what that level of force is. That individual in that case dictated a physical engagement. He continued that physical engagement even though he had numerous officers surrounding him, ordering him to surrender even before he jumped off of the garage. But the end result of that would have been a continued escalating physical encounter, which could have caused injuries to the defendant, to officers, You know, and you don't know where else that could have gone. So that was a very successful deployment of the taser.
What was happening right before we saw the video? I mean, we saw all this chaos, but was that the point at which he jumped from the roof?
He was on the rooftop when marshals were moving in. He went out of a window in the apartment that he was in, jumped to another roof, and then jumped to a garage roof. I don't know where he thought he was going. He was obviously, you know, not in his right frame of mind of, you know, he wanted to escape, and he thought rooftops was the way to go, and then eventually he jumped.
Is the investigation still ongoing, you said?
The investigation into what we are looking into, that other crime that I spoke on. So that one, Niagara County would have to comment on that.
Here's why I asked that. You had another incident, a shootout on the east side after a car chase. We'd asked for the body cam video. You declined to provide it because you said it's part of an ongoing investigation. So I'm to assume you're releasing this because this is not an ongoing investigation, or are you picking and choosing what to release here?
I did not decline to release that video. I said at ECMC that when I can, I would release the video, but there were a significant number of officers involved in that. There's a significant amount of video. This is probably the largest investigation that this department has undertaken. You know, this is one incident, one location, much easier. You know, and we go back to the officer-involved shooting on Hurdle Avenue. One location, one incident. We were able to isolate the video and get something out. This is, like I said, probably the most expansive investigation our department has ever undertaken with 19 crime scenes. It's too much for me to just grab something and put it out. I will release body camera video. I said on the night of the incident, without even viewing any of it, that we will release some, but I just ask for some continued patience in that. It's too much. This is big.
Is there an update on the suspect's condition in this case?
He sustained a leg injury. I was told that day that there was a possibility of a broken leg. He jumped off the roof. He made quite a leap off the roof, but he also ran down the driveway. So the officers at that time would not have known, and he continued to fight, that he had an injury. Had he dropped from the broken leg and collapsed there, then he would have been taken into custody. First aid would have been rendered, and we would have moved on from that, but he continued to fight.
Are you trying to get more tasers for your department? I know you said you have 100 that are 20 at each precinct, and then you have a couple in reserve for spending. Are you trying to get more?
Well, I think we have a sufficient number of tasers. They're shared by officers. They're not individually assigned to the officers. So we have 20 per district. That's enough to cover the amount of officers that would be working a shift. In most cases, there are going to be some circumstances where some officers will be out there that do not have a taser if we have a larger number of officers working, but I think that's a sufficient number of tasers.
Did you release this because you said something early in your comments, there was some videos released out there. Are you trying to quell any particular narrative or rumor or anything like this?
Not at all. I just want to be transparent. As I said, there was a lot of media inquiry within minutes of this incident occurring. Before I even knew that the incident occurred, we were getting media requests. I believe they heard on the scanners that a taser was deployed. So we started getting those inquiries, and then there was some cell phone video that was put out. And one of the first things that I wanted to do was work on that video and then get it out. It's, we just got the tasers deployed. I think just in the spirit of transparency and also showing that here's a situation that could have taken a different turn because of a physical engagement. And you saw the taser used as it was designed. The officer gave the commands as he was taught to do. The individual personnel that were engaging did their best to back away from him so that the taser could be deployed. You also heard the officer yell, "Get him, get him, get him." What they're taught to do while the taser is engaged, while the person is being subjected to the taser, is for the officers to move in and take him into custody, because when the taser stops after 5 seconds, the individual can fight from that point on again, and then you got to start over again. So that get him, get him, get him was part of his training to say get on him and get the handcuffs on him while he's hopefully being incapacitated. That individual, it appears through the video, was able to partially fight through that. He was tased the second time by another officer without deploying the probes, but it's called a dry stun, where he actually brought the taser gun right to his body and shocked him a second time, which then enabled the individuals to get the handcuffs on him, and that ended the engagement.
What happens before you get to the point of using a taser? We're seeing 2 minutes. Obviously, this struggle happened for more than 2 minutes. So fill us in on what was before that. What did officers do to get to that point to say we need to use a taser?
It was verbal commands. He was out on the rooftops. You know, you're not going to tase somebody on a rooftop. We don't want somebody to fall off of an elevated position. And there were officers, as I'm told, that were even reiterating that, you know, no taser on the roof. That's good communication by the officers. They waited until he came down. Then the individual engaged in a physical confrontation. That's part of the use of force continuum. Had he given up, there would have been no use of force necessary, but he didn't.
Anyone else? We all